And good evening. It's Reverend Mark Hughes. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance, and this is Juxtaposition. You caught me here again. Yes, you caught me again. It is the June edition of Juxtaposition, and this is Issues Affecting Black Folks Affecting Change. Tonight, drinking from a fire hose. Issues affecting black folks affecting change. Yeah, juxtaposition. So we're going to have one of our my favorite people come on tonight, and that's going to be Pat Altilio. He is our senior data analyst from the Racial Justice Alliance, and he's going to be talking to us a little bit about some analysis. One of the things that I talked to you about the last time we were together is this. Take a look at this. This is the Executive Order 14288, the analysis on the Executive Order 14288. You may recall some of the seriously just really problematic challenges that it produced. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to shift a little bit, and we're going to talk more about other executive orders. In fact, we're going to talk about all executive orders. So as you see here, what we have is we've got some analysis for you tonight. We're going to be talking about some analysis. So we've got some conversation. You know, what if we were, instead of drinking from a fire hose, what if we had this like magical, mystical power of taking all of these 150 plus executive orders and conducting some type of synthesis, some type of aggregation, and then some kind of correlation, and then we were able to extract from that like an analysis that provided us, I don't know, threats across various categories, like different classifications of demographics, and maybe we could even do it across different institutions, for example. I'm glad you came tonight, because that's exactly what we have been able to do. And more poignantly, I think that's exactly what Pat's been able to do. So let me just introduce you, first of all, to our guest here. And this is no guest of mine, because I've been with Pat. Pat and I have been together for probably roughly around 6 years or so. So glad to see you tonight. Pat, I know you're chilling down there in Queechee. I'm glad you were able to drop what you were doing for a few minutes and pop in. Pat Altilio, the senior data analyst for the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance. Good evening, Pat.
Hi, Mark.
So yeah, I mean, the whole story about what it is that we're doing here, in my opinion, I don't know. Maybe you've had the chance to talk to some other folks around, but seems pretty unprecedented what we're doing here, and also necessary, very necessary. What's your take on it, on the work, and how are you feeling about where we are so far?
Yeah, well, when you pose the challenge of trying to take a more comprehensive look at all the executive orders, it was a very daunting task. And so I hit upon this approach that I'll talk about in a minute, using artificial intelligence, large language models, which we're hearing so much about in the news, like ChatGPT, and that can be used for, this is a very powerful tool that can be used for good or evil. But in this particular case, we're using this artificial intelligence model to do legal analysis, which it turns out the one we're using is particularly good at. And this is the only way I've come across to really be able to get our arms around everything that's coming out under these executive orders. And to your question, how has it been received? From my perspective, I've talked to a number of people in academia and in the area, and they think I've not found any other group or researcher who has taken this approach so far. So
Absolutely.
I found it pretty productive and enlightening, and I've been spending a whole lot of time on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I know you've been deep in it, as we say, and the thing is that there are 150 plus executive orders that have been released by this administration. They've made it almost impossible to understand their consequences and their collective impact. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, and the questions are, like how can we know how to organize, to prioritize in our march towards justice, and if we don't understand what these executive orders are doing, not just individually but also collectively, because again, we just got dumped on quite a bit of them. Again, for those who are just joining, I'm with Pat Autilio he's the senior data analyst of the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance. There's a completed analysis, and I shouldn't say completed because I believe it's iterative. It's ongoing. Would that be fair to say, Pat?
Yeah, it's a work in progress. Continue to come up with new ways of looking at the data, new ways of looking at these executive orders, new ways of questioning, the harm and threats that they're potentially providing. So yeah, this is definitely a work in progress, and I'm taking input all the time as to a way to improve the work.
Absolutely. So I mean, in taking a look at how do we classify their impact, say for example by population, and these are some of the questions that we were asking ourselves roughly. What about the severity of the harm, and what about the legal issues that are involved, each one of these executive orders and these executive orders collectively? What legal issues do they present? So what I believe this is definitely the most comprehensive. This is the only analysis that I've seen, detailed analysis, which aggregates, it correlates, it categorizes, it prioritizes. Also, I should say the impact of these executive orders. So, Pat, maybe it might be helpful just to take a look and maybe you could give us a run through, maybe from a high level, what you're working with, and
Sure.
maybe we can take a look at it. We can share with the folks who are looking on.
Yeah, you bet. Here, I'm going to share my screen through the
Fantastic.
miracles of technology. And you can see, Mark, are you seeing the graph?
Yes, I am. I can see that.
Yeah, okay, great. So, yeah, Mark showed a couple slides with another way of looking at it. And as of yesterday, I checked the Federal Register, and there have been 157 executive orders issued from the
Good
Trump
Lord.
administration since they took office in January 20th. And as you can see from this graph, that dark red line going straight up is remarkably, so many more than we've seen in past administrations. Now we've had presidents since at least since FDR issuing executive orders, and you can see the last 6 administrations here all kind of follow pretty much a similar pattern, but this second Trump administration is right off the charts. So yeah, and we've read a lot in the press about individual executive orders and concerns about particular ones, and Mark talked in the last show about one. But how do we look at them all and get some sort of a comprehensive view? So this at a high level is what we've done. We've taken each of the executive orders and sent each one of them individually through this AI software, and we ask particular questions. One is constitutional or federal law violations. What are the legal issues that are identified in each executive order? And the AI software will name the issue. It'll provide a description of the issue and also severity. Is it a particularly severe or moderate severity or low severity? And so we do that with legal violations, illegalities, constitutional violations, federal law violations for the executive orders. We also have a number of analyses around the harms being done to populations, communities. I'll show a slide in a second. Some of those populations we're considering, certainly African Americans, but also women, people with disabilities, LGBT community, a long list of populations, communities that we ask the AI to consider for each executive order, the harms that are being done potentially to them.
I'm wondering, if you can hear me. I'm wondering if
Yeah.
you said that we use AI technology, and you're probably going to get to that, but maybe you can unpack that a little bit just so folks can understand the power of that technology and what it, what it actually is and what it does.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have time to get too far into it,
Okay.
but I can pop up. There's a slide I have here about the AI I'm using is called Claude from a company called Anthropic,
Nice.
and it's a large language model. What this particular AI model has in it is literally 1 billion legal documents that it
A
has
billion with a B.
absorbed and analyzed and uses a knowledge base so that you can ask all sorts of questions against legal issues and governmental action from this model. Okay, so that if we go back to that slide, we take the executive order, we feed it through the model, and we ask it certain questions, and it uses that knowledge base of 1 billion legal documents. And Claude is like ChatGPT. I'm sure our audience has heard about ChatGPT and some of the other ones from other. Google has what's it called? I
Gotcha.
forget. Facebook has Meta has Llama, and every there's all these big AI models out there. Claude is particularly good at this one. I don't know. Does that answer your question, Mark?
That does. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay. In terms of harms of communities, we also focus on civil rights in particular as something of particularly concern the African American community, some other communities like that in this context. So we zoomed in on civil rights harms for particular populations. It's been productive and illuminating for us. And institutions and other kind of slices. We're still kind of drawing that list of ways to look at these executive orders and the harms that they may be doing. And as I said, for each time an issue or a threat is identified, we assign a severity to it, just is to help us, because this model, when we run these executive orders through, we start getting dozens and hundreds of threats and issues listed out in all the details, and the sheer numbers is interesting, but also we've got to try to prioritize and focus on all these issues coming out, and so we use this prioritization, the severity, to help us prioritize, and then we can also summarize develop summaries of what we're learning as the final step to help us communicate. So let's take some examples here.
Absolutely.
So if we look, so let's look at those populations. So here's an example of 10 of the most harmed populations by this is considering the first 143 executive orders that came out through the end of April. Those first 100 days. And you can see the people who you might be afraid would be experiencing harm through these executive orders: poor people, people with disabilities, federal workers. We know very well, the Doge and company has really affected the federal workforce, and a number of others. So kind of ones you would expect, along with some other ones like future generations, which you might not always consider. And Black people are on this list. They just didn't make it in the top 10, but there's plenty of things that I'm going to tell you about in
Gotcha.
Actually, let's go right to, what I want to do, go to I'm sorry, I've got a lot of slides here.
You got a lot of slides.
Yeah. So civil rights threats we were talking about, specific to African Americans. So this is an output, a summary output from the model. And you can see that the threats are categorized under particular civil rights areas: equal protection under the law, equal employment opportunity rights, rights for thorough and efficient education, voting rights, and so on. All these areas have been identified as in one executive order or many posing a threat. And so this gives some, again, gives us some numbers and for severity, and we can kind of focus in on which executive orders and which threats we're most concerned about. So that's a way of looking at from a numbers standpoint. And I go back to this slide here, which is when we look across all the analysis that comes out, and we can boil that down to a few areas. In education, employment opportunity, housing, criminal justice, voting rights, equal protection, kind of the areas that we've all come to be dealing with in this for the African American community since forever. And these executive orders are posing a lot of risks to these civil rights that were won so dearly back in the 60s.
Yeah, just pausing for a minute there, I would say that one of the things that we've noticed with the executive orders, because there's also been a lot of executive orders that have been rescinded, a lot of executive actions that have been rescinded as well through these executive orders. Yeah, from previous administrations. And what we're seeing is on aggregate that civil rights in general, just generally speaking, just civil rights, have essentially been walked back by this administration to an era that would be somewhere around 1890, and that's really serious. So, just looking at this, be curious if we had any analysis of civil rights across the board, and as opposed to civil rights for African Americans, because that might be interesting. I don't know if we have that or not. We could probably revisit that later.
So let me see. So here's kind of a busy slide, and I don't know if this has come across on a video feed, but
yeah, we can kind of see that. I can kind of see that.
This is sorted from 1 to N. All the civil rights threats.
Wow.
And all the populations that are threatened. And so it's a long list, and it's got senior citizens and voters and people with mental illness and Muslims, and it goes on and on. So, to your point, Mark, there's all these groups are experiencing, are in the target for one or more of these executive orders, and that's why we're so concerned.
Yeah, if you don't mind me summarizing that, I would say from where I'm sitting, it looks like there's probably about nearly a couple thousand that these are all civil rights, I guess, threats, if you will, from severe and moderate. A quarter of those seem to be severe, roughly about a quarter of those severe, and this is across all categories. So this kind of gives us an idea, kind of essentially where the center mass is, if you will. If we're gonna, if we're looking for counter narratives, if we're looking for counter approaches, if we're looking for what it is that we are going to organize around collectively, this is incredibly valuable for us to take a look at, and this is the analysis. This is the analysis that we're looking for. Other areas, and can you talk also about some of the other demographics that you looked at in perhaps institutions, Pat, in the last 5 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see here. This is kind of what the question we ask about institutions. These are all the institutions considered.
Wow.
So this is federal agencies as well as non-government agencies, nonprofits, and research community. So there's dozens of institutions that we look at and look at threats to their integrity, the way they have operated historically, and so on. And this is another productive area. We're concerned about science and research. We're concerned
Sure.
about not education institutions. So this is another way to just get it, to look at the data. And there's, every day, seems like every few days I wake up with another another list I want to run through this, through this analysis.
Yep.
And yeah. Um, uh, I'm sorry. Here's a slide that shows the most concerning executive orders, from top to bottom here. So we can take which executive orders and how many harms each executive order is responsible for, and then you can also see on this column next to it legal challenges. So there's many challenges in being many groups that are challenging these executive orders in court, and there are those resources where we can determine which executive orders are being challenged, and we can compare those against the harms that we've determined to see if we're really focusing on the things we care about with these challenges and areas that need further scrutiny and consideration for pursuing from a legal standpoint.
Now, that one that's there at the top, it looks like that would be the one that rescinded a good lion's share of the executive orders that were from previous administrations.
Right. That's one of the first ones that was issued to kind of backs out from particularly from Biden and Obama administrations. But going back to Johnson.
In the last couple of minutes here, Pat, and I really appreciate this because this is helpful, and we're going to we're going to keep digging. But if you wanted to summarize what we're looking at here, just if you wanted to just summarize all of it and kind of wrap it up, what are you seeing, and what are your thoughts, and where are we going next with this analysis?
Yeah, certainly. And let me just kind of a wrap up slide here. So,
Sure.
So we took this idea of using this software-based approach to study the executive orders because it's a huge problem that no small group of volunteers can really take on very, very effectively without some assistance. We've discovered this approach is very productive and intriguing, and we've gotten feedback from researchers and advocates that agree with that. So we're pursuing that as best we can, and this is helping Mark and the Alliance determine areas that they want to focus on and pursue in terms of remedies and mitigating the harms that are being done. This again is a work in progress. There's many areas we want to also consider and expand our analysis. We are looking to identify people in the legal community or research community to help us validate the results we're getting to make sure we're on the right path, and considering everything we can to make sure that the results are valid. And so we've got a lot of work to do. And also we want to take these analysis and like today, send it out to the broader community to make people aware of this is what we're working on, and maybe enlist some ideas and further assistance to help us carry the work forward.
Pat Autilio, Senior Data Analyst, Vermont Racial Justice Alliance, just a beast with this data. Thank you so much, Pat.
My pleasure. Well,
Have
thank
a
you,
great
Mark.
evening, Pat. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. Just so folks know, on the 23rd of June, we're going to be at the Richard Kemp Center on the 23rd of June at 6:30 p.m. in a little event that we're calling an executive action. An executive action, and the executive action is all about how we can take a closer look at this. The Attorney General's office, as well as the Human Rights Commission and Legal Aid, have all been invited to executive action. So show up on the 23rd of June, and we can take a closer look at these data. So just to let you know that's going on. Also, take a look at this slide here. This is Raise Up Justice. This is a fusion movement because a lot of folks are talking about so what? Well, the so what is there we are building a movement slowly. And as you can see, this is a civil rights movement. This is an equal protection movement. This is, again, data informed. This is the reason why we're facing in this direction is what you've just seen. Nonviolence. This is a beloved community movement. So a multiracial, intergenerational, interfaith, multi-abled, and politically independent movement. We need a movement. You've seen what it is that we're working against, and now you understand what it is that we're doing. We got to focus on civil rights. So this is the third Thursday. So this will be on Juneteenth at 6 p.m. at the Richard Kim Center. We will be revisiting this movement. We've already had multiple public meetings, and we're slowly building momentum. So we're encouraging you to come out. We're not waiting for saviors. What we're doing is we're building power. So come and show up for that. The next thing I wanted to show you here is right here is this is the Truth and Justice series. We're going to be doing the Truth and Justice series. We're going to continue that in the South Burlington Library. So it's the South Burlington Library, and it's the fourth Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Truth and Justice, you know, the cornerstone of personal character, family relationships, the foundation of our communities and societies, drawn on a timeless vision of a world where the oppressed are freed and the brokenhearted find comfort and those silenced are heard. This series invites participants from all faiths and traditions to join in an urgent conversation about the central role of truth and justice that it must play in shaping our present future. So again, these are some of the things that we're doing about these data analysis that we're conducting. And finally, I want to remind you also in this last slide this is our legislative agenda, which in this particular session really didn't receive a whole bunch of traction for some odd reason. And these are actual live policies. These bills are live and they're on the walls of all of our respective committees. We'll circle back around with you and we'll get some information out to you about how you can reach out to legislators over the summer. And we'll also be organizing around some of these policies. So yes, there is a legislative agenda that's out, and it does speak to some of the justice, this is, we calling it justice agenda. So that's going to be a wrap for tonight. Just wanted to make you familiar with some of the analysis that we're doing on the back end and some of the work that we're doing on the front end. Make sure you stop by the Richard Kim Center on the 19th for the aforementioned. This has been Juxtaposition, Black issues affecting Black folks affecting change. Thanks, y'all, for coming out. Stay in the fight. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It's our duty to win. We must love and care for one another. We've got nothing to lose but our chains. Good evening.